Well, troubleshooting BGP can be troublesome. It can be challenging because in whenever we are configuring BGP, we are dealing with so many parameters, so many variable things like AS numbers, route flapping issue, authentication, ACLs, route dampings. So it's a little bit different than other protocols, and it's more interesting, more fun. And this is the reason why I'm compiling this series of videos where I will be going through various issues, various troubleshooting cases of BGP, which I personally myself have came across in my practical life, where I work in practical environment, and also what I have seen similar in the exam scenarios. So I will try to compile all my knowledge, whatever I know, the troubleshooting cases, whatever I can recall, into this series of video where I will be covering multiple scenarios. So let's stay in touch with this series and let's enjoy how we are going to deal with the troubleshooting of BGP. Now here we are going to look at our first scenario where we are going to do the troubleshooting of BGP routing protocol, and I will do multiple scenarios like this. Now the first scenario, we have one router which is router R1 within AS100, which is having eBGP session with another, let's say it's having eBGP session with some ISP AS200, just for an example. So now we are going to troubleshoot what's happening with the BGP session over here. So let us quickly jump into our console of router R1. So this is the console of router R1. Let's see show IP BGP summary. We see that they, oh, okay, so the BGP session we see is facing 10.121.2. So here is the IP address of interface 10.121.2. We see that this session is active and it never came up. Now let's go into more detail. Like before we run anything like any debug commands, let's look into the show commands. So show IP BGP, let's do show IP BGP neighbors 10.121.2, and then let's have a look at it. So what we see over there here is that BGP state is active, and which means that it's not idle, it's active, it's not established yet. It's trying, active means that it is trying to go through the process of open. Okay, and in the open messages, yeah, it has sent the open messages. We can see open sent, and it is also receiving open messages. So it means that there is some sort of communication. It means that the layer 3 is established in between them. It will definitely be able to ping because we can see sent and receive is over there. Let's go further down. There is no prefix, obviously it's not established, so there is no prefix. And then in the connection established, we see zero connection established, which tells us that this was never established before. So we have now some idea that we are troubleshooting a BGP session which never came up in past. So such scenario can be some sort of configuration issue, but I don't want to jump directly into the configuration and find the error. I want to run through some troubleshooting command, because we are learning. So why don't we look into troubleshooting commands so that we learn about troubleshooting commands also. You know, it's very easy, we can go do show run and we will find something, but let's look into the troubleshooting command so that we can have a better understanding of BGP protocol. Let's do terminal monitor. It says that logging console is not running. Okay, config terminal. Over here we are going to do logging and logging console. So we turned the login console on. Okay, now this is one thing. Okay, now we see that some console messages are coming up. Okay, and then okay, so now the console messages and terminal monitor will come up, but it will take some time. So we will see show logging. Okay, is it running? Yeah, it says that console logging level debugging is like it's not disabled, so the console logging should be running. And here we see one console message also over here. It's a BGP notification. It's sent from one pair which is 10.121.2. Yeah, this is the IP address 10.121.2. So this is the IP address of our neighbor. So we receive something from there. It says they pair in wrong AS, so it's giving us hint that there is a problem. But I don't want to jump into the configuration. I don't want to do the show run and fix things. I want to play with it. So let's do some more play. I want to do something like ping. Okay, So I was saying that the ping should work. Why ping should work? Because we were seeing open messages sent and received. It means that hopefully ping should work. Yes, ping is working. Now in this scenario, I already know that there is some sort of open message sent and received. Open messages are sent at port number 179. So I know that port 179 is already open. But since I'm doing troubleshooting and we are learning right now, so why don't we do this telnet? Let's try the telnet. Telnet, what is the IP address? 10.1.21.2 and the port number 179. Let's do the, you see over here now it's open. It means that the port 179, someone is listening over there. So it means that this box is listening to us. The port 179 is open. So this is another thing, that port 179 is listening. The ping reachability is there. So it's definitely the AS number, which is, it's already saying that the AS, there is a wrong AS. I want to do one more thing before we jump into the configuration and fix the configuration. I want to go on this port. Since we are on the GNS3, we have an option of doing Wireshark or the packet captures. Okay, so start the packet capture. Okay, on this Ethernet 01, so the packet capture is running, and here we have the Wireshark. Now this is a good opportunity for you guys to have a look at the Wireshark. In practical environment, when you're working in fields, you can also run Wiresharks, right? So often companies, they have like maybe some switch or some sniffer or some sort of mirroring over there already, where you can capture the packet. So the first message is here. See, from source 10.1.21.1, which is my router R1, it is sending to the neighbor router 10.1.21.2. So there is one open message sent. Let's look into this open message. I will directly jump into the BGP part. I will see my AS is 100. Okay, so my router is telling, hey, I am AS 100. And let's look into the neighbor one. This is the acknowledgement of the neighbor coming back to me. Okay, and here is the BGP keep alive over here. Okay, and this is the open message over here, and over here in the open message which is coming back from neighbor, it says my AS is 200. So neighbor is saying my AS is 200. In the previous message we saw, I said my AS is 100. So this is another way where you can look into the Wireshark and you can find that the AS, what is the AS number configured on my neighbor side. Okay, so the neighbor is telling me that my AS is 200. So this is another way of verifying what AS number the neighbor has configured. Maybe they might have been running some AS number which, due to some typing error or some reason, you don't know about it, or you have done some typing mistake or something like that, right? So show run section. Now I'm going to the configuration. That's the last thing I am doing. Show run section BGP. Now I see that over here the mistake I have done is that I have put the neighbor remote AS 100. I need to fix it, and I have to put it as 200. So first I will go into config, and after going to config I will go to router BGP 100. Okay, and then I will reconfigure it as AS 200 because I saw in Wireshark that the neighbor AS is 200 and I was doing a wrong configuration. So let's do one more time. Show run and then section and then BGP. What we see over here is the correct configuration. Now we assume that if there is no other configuration issues, there is no other troubleshooting required, then our show IP BGP summary must show that the session is established. Do we see session established? Yes, we do. So whenever the session is established, in case of BGP, we will see over here, it won't say something like establish. It will say number of prefixes received. It can even say 0 prefixes received. And other important things, that it will show the timer, that how long it is running up. So now this one was our first scenario. I will jump to the second scenario, and in second scenario we will again explore something interesting. Let's look into another troubleshooting issue for the BGP protocol. Now, in this scenario, what we are going to look at is, we have the same two routers, R1 and R21, and we will see if the BGP, no, the BGP is not yet established. So this one we remember from our previous troubleshooting session, that this is the AS200 above, okay, AS200, and bottom we have AS100. The IP address where we are trying to form the BGP relationship is 10.1.21.2. Okay, and we see that this BGP session is down. Now let's go into more detail. Like, I will not jump into the configurations right away. I want to go through some show commands, do some packet captures, and try to understand what's going on. Okay, so show IP BGP neighbor and 10.121.2. Let's look into it. Now over here, what we see is that it looks like it's in active state. So the BGP is still in active state, which means like it's not idle. If it's idle, it's definitely then shut down. It's active, it means that it's trying to establish the neighbor relationship. Another interesting thing you see over here, open notification updates, everything is 0. In previous scenario, we have seen that the open was increasing. Since the open messages were increasing, so we had an idea that according to BGP state machine, at least this box is trying to establish the BGP neighbor. It is sending open message and it was receiving open message. But in this scenario, we are not neither sending nor receiving the open messages. So let's look into, I also had a video in past which was about the BGP state machine. So if in case you haven't watched it, that will be very good use case for understanding like how the BGP actually works. So we see over here, this is my video for the BGP training, BGP state machine. I will put the link in the description. So the flow is like it goes from idle to connect and then to open send. And if we don't see it in open state, so just before the open state we have the TCP establishment, right? So obviously in this scenario the TCP has not been established. That is my guess, right? But I need to look into more so that I can find more clues to the troubleshooting. So now we see over here that no active TCP connection, 0 established. It means that TCP or the BGP was never ever established. Now let's look into this packet capture which we are running right now. So let's start the Wireshark. Here is our Wireshark. Now I'm going to see, okay, yeah, you see over here. Now on the interface we see 10.121.2 is sending TCP previous segment not capture retransmission. So we see lots of retransmission happening. TCP port numbers reused, retransmission is happening. And so we see that there is like from 10.121.2 we see that there is some TCP packets being sent the port 179 which is BGP. So we are seeing some TCP packets coming and we are seeing lots of retransmission also happening. So now let's go back over here. Now we have seen two things. We have a little bit doubt that this could be TCP session not established, means that TCP is blocked somewhere. So what happens, like there can be multiple reasons, like there can be some switch in between our network, between our router and the pairing router, which can block the, or there can be some firewall which can block the TCP port. But before we go and conclude that it's really a TCP port blockage, let's try some more things like 10.1.21.2. I can ping. So if I can ping, it means that the IP reachability is there. Let's try the telnet on the port 179. This is another good way to find out. Telnet, the IP address and port 179, we see that we cannot establish. Now at this stage, when we don't see any open messages coming and going, and we also cannot establish any BGP to the port 179, we see lots of TCP retransmission happening. It means that TCP handshake cannot happen, right? That's why there is so many retransmission. So this is definitely something being blocked, which is the BGP port. There is no firewall in our diagram. There is no switch. So then this could be something on our own router or on the pairing router. So now let's go back and see show IP BGP summary. Okay, now this is active state. Now show what's the interface, show run interface ethernet 0/0. Now we look into this interface. Okay, we see there is one IP access group trusted neighbor ACL. So we have one ACL over here. And then if we go and look at some another interface as well, so we have it applied on all the interfaces actually. But our intention right now, our focus is the interface ethernet 00. 10.1.21.1 is having BGP pair. So this is the ACL. So let's look into the ACL. Show IP access list. So when we look into the IP access list, we see over here that there are some TCP hosts which some IPs addresses are permitted. So what we need to do, we need to add one more entry. Then there is third entry which is deny. So there is permit for only trusted neighbors, okay, and then there is a deny is denying the BGP. So now this is lab scenario. So the interface trusted neighbor ACL is very small over here, but in the production environment, it's a common practice that on all the interfaces facing external to the network, we have a huge ACL. Lots of access lists are applied, blocking almost everything. Like we need to make our router safe. So something we call as hardening of the system, right? So for hardening or trying to make it more secure, what we need to do is that people block uh, they first permit the trusted sources, and then they block almost everything. They will block BGP, they will block remote desktop protocol, they will block TCP to all the ports, like they will block SSH as well. So they will block almost all those things which can be vulnerable to your system. So this is common in production environment. In lab we have only one ACL over here, but in production there are lots of big access list. So we might cover some video, another video some another day, where we will talk about hardening the router, right, or making it more secure. So what ports should we block? The other thing over here is that do we put this access list only, or there can be something else as well? You know, there can be some places like something we call as COPP, control plane policy. Now the control plane policies are also applied on the boxes to make it secure, and there is also like one place, show run section BGP. Now in the show run section BGP, right now over here we don't have any route map. There is a route map on some another neighbor, but let's focus on our neighbor. So this neighbor doesn't have any route map. Usually it's also possible that the neighbor itself has a route map which will block BGP from certain specific IP addresses. So that's also possible. That's also one area where you can look at, right? But right now we have already found that there is show IP access list, and this access list is blocking. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's go into this access list. I will try to configure one statement over here, and the statement that I will try to configure is going to permit okay, IP access is this one, and then I will you see there I can create any entry. Let's say we create some entry like, let's say 30, entry number 30, and I will do a permit, and I will try to make it a little bit different just for experiment, right? Run permit TCP, and I'm going to make it a specific IP 10.1 10.1.21.0.0.0. I can do, yeah, I can do to 255 also. Let's make it more specific. So dot 3. So I'm allowing anything from source. So in the access list, like the first part is the source IP address. So from 10.1.21.0 network, I'm allowing destination, any destination wherever it wants to go, and the port has to be equal to TCP 179, yeah. So 179 is basically BGP protocol. Now I will do show IP access list. Show IP access list, sorry, I have to do show IP access list. So when I do show IP access list, I see that there is one new entry over here which is allowing it. Now in case of Cisco boxes, what we are doing is that these IP access lists are running on show run interface Ethernet 0/0. Okay, you see over here we have applied the access list. Juniper has more interesting thing. In Juniper, these access lists, rather than being applied on the interfaces, they can be applied on globally, like whole box. Like we can go and define this access list on something like loopback 0, and it will be applied on complete box. In Cisco, I have a mechanism where I have to put this access list on individual interfaces. Now, while we were talking about Juniper, I just saw that there is a BGP neighbor relationship that just came up. So let's verify show IP BGP summary. So when I verify the, oh wow, so the BGP session has been established. I receive one prefix as well. So now this was one of the scenario where I have showed how to troubleshoot when your particular TCP port has been blocked. Now I have more scenarios. So let's look into the next possible interesting scenarios that so in this scenario, what we are going to do is we see that there are same neighbors over here, R1, R21, exact same scenario, same topology. We have this one in AS100, AS200. Other routers I'm not running because I want to make it simple, just troubleshoot on one case right now so that we can run lots of commands, do some show stuff and see what's wrong with this scenario. So over here also we see that when I did the show IP BGP summary, I see that same like previous scenario, this time also our BGP is down. So now we need to go step by step and try to fix this BGP session. So let's have a look. First thing, we have to go and look into the detailed command like show IP BGP neighbor IP 2.1.21.2. So I'm on router 1 over here and I'm checking the BGP session. What's the, oh wow. So this time what we see is that the BGP state is active. Okay, and in the open we see that sent and received are 0. So this is interesting. This time what we see is that the BGP is trying to establish, but there isn't anything, none of the open messages is neither sent nor received. Did it ever came up? Obviously it never came up. Established is 0 over here. So we are troubleshooting some interesting case over here. Let's first do the ping and see, because since there is no messages sent and received, okay, I assume that maybe the ping cannot work, right? There is no IP reachability, maybe the link is down, some other layer 3 issues, right? So let's have a look. 10.1.21.2 we can ping it. So if we can ping and if we can see that the BGP is also up, okay, so let's see if there is something showing up in the log, and then we will also do some debugging and see how is it going. So let's go and see show logging. Okay, and here we go. So in logging we see, okay, we can see some errors in logging and it says that invalid MD5 digest. So now this case looks like there is MD5 authentication issue. So the reason why we don't see anything in OpenSend, because it's encrypted and the encryption password is not correct. So we don't see any open sent or received over there. So other way of checking is like we have just done the show logging, but we could have also done something like config terminal. We could have also done some debugging command like debug IP BGP. Okay, I'm running it wrong place. Okay, so I have to go back over here in the enable mode, and then in the privilege, and then I have to go debug IP BGP, and then I see debug IP BGP event. Okay, and I have to do terminal monitor, and logging console is disabled. I usually keep the logging console and terminal monitor disabled because I don't want lots of messages to be showing up on the console when I'm giving any training session, right? So logging console. Okay, so okay, we see that there are some MD5 digest messages also coming, so there is definitely some authentication issue going on. Now let's go quickly and look into the do show run section BGP. Now we are looking into the configuration. So I prefer that before we look into the configuration, we try to resolve or we try to solve the scenario step by step. What we can do is like we can go into the configuration, we can go into the show commands, we can run the debug like right now some debug is running, and no logging console so that our screen doesn't get too much dirty, right? No terminal monitor. Okay, then what we have to do, terminal no monitor, I guess. Yeah, okay. Now what we have to do is like we just go back to config terminal, do show run section BGP. Now we can see the output very clear. Okay, so what we see over here is that 10.1.21.2 there isn't any BGP authentication configured, so it's missing. So usually what happens that whenever we are establishing a BGP session with any neighbor, let's say we are establishing BGP, eBGP is often with the some partner network, right? Or some ISP or some another carrier or some another department where we are running eBGP. So what we do is like we exchange all the information in some low level design document. So we need to have all these information pre-hand with us, like the IP address, AS number, and whatever MD5 authentication we are going to use. In this case, I know because I was preparing the lab. So our MD5 authentication over here is next in IT. Okay, so I will configure it. If you are going for CCIE lab, you will see all the configuration information in your lab manual, right? The lab questionnaire. It will be giving you stuffs like what MD5 should be over there. So if you see some configuration errors like this, or any MD5 password missing, you can look into the document or the question book where you can find the password. Now over here I have to configure next in ID. Okay, so now the password has been configured. So now if I do this do show run, there is a problem still. I think it's in clear text. I don't want it in clear text. Do show IP BGP summary. First we see if the BGP is coming up. So we see the BGP came up 9 seconds ago. So this is the timer over here telling the BGP came up and only one prefix was received. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to go to the exit. Okay, and I will do the service password encryption. Okay, now when we do the service password encryption, it is going to encrypt whatever the password we have configured. That's what I wanted to do. So anyhow, so this was our troubleshooting of MD5, the BGP password related stuff. I want to do many more troubleshooting sessions, but this video is getting a little bit longer, so I will terminate it over here, and I will make a part 2 session as well, and I will upload the part 2 video. So just stay tuned, share it with your coworkers, whoever you think is interested in the BGP troubleshooting. It will be helpful for them, helpful for you. Thank you. Okay, bye.